This woman and her husband were returning home for the first time to meet his family. Right after stepping off the plane, her in-laws handed her a chador, a long robe all women are required to wear, because if she failed to follow the rule, a wife could be shot at any moment. But just as they approached the doorway, an armed religious follower rushed toward her, simply because her headscarf didn't fully cover her hair. Her husband's relatives pleaded with him, and the women quickly adjusted Betty's scarf. Only then did the man leave satisfied. As a true American, she couldn't understand these customs at all. Though uneasy, Betty kept reminding herself she'd be heading back to the US in a week, and pushed her worries aside. But when the day finally came to go home, she realized her husband had no intention of leaving. After pressing him, she learned he had quit his job in the US long ago. He never planned on returning. Betty and her daughter had no way out. She fought back in desperation, and for the first time, her once gentle husband slapped her. But she didn't know this was only the beginning of her ordeal. He seized her passport and all their money. With no options left, Betty went to the living room to complain to her in-laws about her husband's cruelty and violence. But instead of comfort, they scolded her harshly, even blaming their son for not disciplining her properly. In this cold, unwelcoming household, Betty fell into despair while her husband stood by and watched. Desperate and alone, Betty tried seeking help from the embassy, only to discover there was no US embassy in the country. So she went to the Swiss embassy, hoping they could reach American officials. Seeing Western faces gave her hope, but once she explained her situation, they told her that because she married an Iranian citizen, she was now legally considered Iranian too, and had to follow the country's strict laws on women. They offered sympathy, but couldn't help her. When she returned home, her husband became even more brutal. To earn back his trust, Betty had no choice but to appear obedient for a while, and her husband knew their daughter was her weakest point, so he never allowed them to go out together. Betty clung to the small chance of finding someone to call for help. After many failed attempts, a shop owner who once studied in the US finally offered assistance. When she managed to reach an American office, they could only offer sympathy, nothing more. As she left in disappointment, the shop owner said he might know another way. A few days later, he connected her with a smuggling group asking for $10,000 and outlining a rough escape route, saying she could pay after she reached the US. A spark of hope returned to Betty. The next day, their daughter, newly enrolled in school, cried non-stop, and her husband agreed to let Betty stay with her for the day. After dropping the child off, Betty met the smugglers to go over the details of the escape. But that afternoon, her husband arrived early at the school, saw her rushing toward him, and struck her without a word. Her brief disappearance enraged him. He tore out the house phone line, dragged their daughter away, and placed Betty under indefinite house arrest. Aside from the food left at the door, he said nothing to her, and she spent 2 cold, silent months locked in her room. Only when an airstrike shattered the window did her confinement end. She ran to embrace her husband and daughter, insisting she was willing to obey. More than 6 months passed, and Betty looked indistinguishable from the local women, as if she had adapted to life there. But in truth, she never stopped planning her escape. Every bit of submission was meant to make her husband feel secure. One day, Betty unexpectedly received a call from her mother. Her father was critically ill and needed surgery. She shared the news with her husband, and to her shock, he agreed to let her return to visit. Betty froze, caught between disbelief and unease. That evening at dinner, she cautiously asked whether the whole family would be returning together. Her question enraged him. He never planned to return to America. His permission for her trip had only one purpose. He wanted her to go back, sell their belongings, and leave their daughter in Iran. It meant Betty was expected to return. Time was running out for her. She finally decided to take the risk, because here, a 9-year-old girl was already considered marriageable, and she refused to leave her daughter behind. Then one day, the opportunity finally appeared. Her husband was called in to work overtime, and Betty told her in-laws she needed to take her daughter to choose a gift for her grandfather. After months of behaving obediently, her in-laws suspected nothing, allowing the two of them to slip away. Betty contacted the smuggling group, saying they needed to leave immediately. She knew she might die trying, but she made her choice anyway, because as an American woman, if covering her face was the only way to survive, she would rather die, and she refused to let her daughter grow up in that life. Led by the smugglers, Betty avoided checkpoints and crossed barren highlands. But at a rest stop, the driver working with them suddenly took her passport, wallet, and jewelry without explanation. Betty didn't dare resist, but fortunately, he didn't abandon them. After navigating dangerous border zones, the driver brought out a horse because vehicles couldn't go any farther. The terrain was brutal, the conditions unforgiving, but their determination pushed them forward. After several days of travel, they finally crossed into Turkey. Once the driver handed them off to his contact, he gave Betty a package, telling her in broken English that they were now in Turkey. In the car, Betty opened the package and discovered the items and passport he had taken back in Iran. Only then did she understand. He kept them hidden because carrying them was too dangerous for her. Betty finally reached the U.S. Embassy in Turkey, and when she saw the American flag, she broke into a tearful smile. Their long, grueling escape had come to an end at last. This story is based on true events, and many parents and children remain trapped in foreign countries just like Betty once was. May everyone longing for freedom find a path home.